Rebel religion in the news.
All right, good day, everybody. Welcome to Rebel Religion in the News here on KKXX Christian Talk Radio and on our podcast. Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Jerry O'Lennon, along with Pastor Alfredo Romero of Rock of Life Fellowship. He's my co-host and our regular guest. We have Bishop Peter Hansen of St. Augustine Anglican Church. Good morning.
Good morning.
Interesting statistic to chew on. The birth rate for women in the United States. The average birth rate per woman now stands at 1.66 births per woman. That's a pretty steep decline. 2.1 is the fertility threshold. Just to read what that is, in the past, high fertility was vital because of high infant death rates. With modern medicine, it's better to have it at around 2.1, producing a birth rate which now is just a bit higher than the death rate, on the assumption that most kids grow up to have kids of their own, but that doesn't seem to be happening because, again, the birth rate has fallen down to 1.66, and that brings up, and it's so low that even the current administration is talking about giving families $5,000 just to have a child.
Nice.
It's too bad they can't do that.
There are other nations who've done that.
We're a little too old,
Well, okay, yeah. Can we make that retroactive?
Yeah, can we back it up a few years?
Well, it goes down. I think it's Genesis where God says, "Be fruitful," and didn't He tell Adam and Eve that?
Sure it is.
Be fruitful and multiply.
That was the first commandment.
Was it really?
Yeah, it wasn't the apple.
Really?
No, it was not the apple. The first commandment was multiply, subdue, and take over. You're my agents. You're my chief crew here. Name the animals, watch out for the garden, and be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah, I'm giving you dominion over the things. So go out and make kids.
Well, let's talk about the reason why it's not happening. Why are young people or any people not having kids like they used to?
Well, in the United States, right? So,
right. Let's focus in the U.S.
I've read enough about this to know somewhat some knowledge about it. Number one thing is a lot of the people in the last couple of generations have been told that it's not worth having kids. The earth it's declining. I wouldn't want to bring up a child in this world.
Yeah, but we've been hearing. I remember episodes of All in the Family where Michael and Gloria weren't going to have kids because it's a terrible world. So that argument has always been out there, hasn't it? That goes back 50 years.
Yeah.
So that argument has always been out there.
But add to that the world overpopulation myths, scares, overstatements. The idea that the world is going to crash under the environmental horror that we are.
Mm-hmm.
That we're bad for the planet and all that kind of stuff. So.
And in a strange kind of way, by not having kids, it makes the world it may be greater risk because we do need people to sustain life on this planet.
And we're speaking about by choice, and choice, of course,
right.
has become the new moniker for abortion, and abortion and birth control and all the stuff that Planned Parenthood brought into our society to say, we can control this and keep our lifestyle high, and eliminate, those people we don't like by birth controlling them out of existence. That was really, that's Margaret Sanger's philosophy. Well, we bought it largely, and so we've done that and turned our sexual lives into simply pleasure, and it has nothing to do with having families.
Right.
That's a piece of it, but there's also another piece of it. They're finding out that men are becoming sterile. They're not producing enough of their part of the
DNA.
Yeah, to be able to chromosomally meet a woman, and so kids are getting married later, much later, having their families much later. So it's stretching out the reproductive cycle. And you're getting older parents.
Is it because of a selfishness, do you think, where people, I've heard the argument, and I don't make any opinion on this, just throwing it out there, that maybe some women say, I'm going to put off getting married. I have a career. I want to live for myself, and and then all of a sudden they reach a certain age and they get kind of panicky. Oh, I'll marry you. I'll marry you. You look good enough for me. And I know that I don't mean it to sound sexist way, but when they're the reality is there are certain time limits for women. I hate to use the term biological clock because it just sounds bad, but there is a time in which it makes it much more difficult.
Marisa Tomei said it was.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
Right, okay.
You gotta watch My Cousin Vinny to understand the woman's viewpoint.
Right.
But no, you're right. And one of the biggest things, and probably, and you can research it yourself. I'm just telling you facts. But in the last couple of generations, again, there's been emphasis on singlehood. Women shouldn't get married because they need their careers before anything else. And you're right. And I know from experience after talking to several women over the last few years, they got to a certain point where they put their careers and themselves first, that by the time they started reaching 31, 32, 33, there is a little bit of panic. And I'm just going to tell you the way I see it, and from my experiences, I should say, that some of the women have told me, well, I'm in my 30s and I'm trying to get married, but the guys are either divorced or
Losers.
I'm trying to think of another word.
Barflies.
They got,
Barflies.
and it's some women. I'm calling up my old boyfriends from high school. Hey, Bob, remember me? We went a couple of. How you doing?
Yeah.
But no, it's just one of those things where God has a purpose for us. We are to leave our mother and father and cling to our spouse, be married, have kids. His plan is best. And there's no plan that we could come up for our lives that's better than the plan that God has for us. He's got it. He's got the plan.
There's not just one reason why the birth rate is down.
It's several.
There must be several. Anything else that pops into the head that you're thinking? I feel like it's sort of like there's a selfishness that is in where maybe is there a fear of loving, a fear of saying, I'm going to live for someone else as opposed to just living for myself.
Sure. I mean, and kids today are all being aimed toward a solo life. How are you going to fulfill yourself, and what are you going to do for you, and what is your profession going to say about who you are? Right. And those are not bad questions. They're just lacking that one component. How are you going to become a whole person? When I've married people who've been single a really long time before they've ever gotten married, I explain to them, you've grown into a solo life, and it tends to be selfish. You're going to get now with a stranger in your house, demanding things, wanting your attention and time, and you're not used to that. You brace yourself. This is normally something people get when they're 18, 20, 25 years old. You're trying it at 37, and it's like marriage is I see it like a rock tumbler. Those rock tumblers where you used to put rocks in and they'd go around and around and around.
Yeah, polish it.
Finally smooth out the rocks. But you go in there as a rough rock. You look ugly. You got little places that stick out, and if you get in there with the other rock and tumble around for a while, you're going to come out beautiful. But it's a painful process.
Oh, interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Go ahead.
No, there's a trend on Instagram I wanted to be aware of. I try to make myself aware of all the trends on Instagram and other social media so I can understand what society is going through. And there's a trend that's called child-free, and where a great group of women actually have decided they want to be child-free. They want to put their lives first. There's an Instagram I just saw the other day, a post of a young woman saying, hey, I'm like 28 years old and I don't have kids and I don't have a husband. I get up when I want to. I eat what I want. I come home late. I go to bed early. There's no interruptions in my life. I don't need kids. And it was very, somewhat popular. Got a couple million views, few million views. And I looked at it and I said, okay, can you do me? I wanted to comment, but I don't comment. I just for educational purposes only. But I don't comment. But basically, I wanted to say, can you please redo this video in 10 years? And tell me what your views are in 10 years when you're still by yourself and the house is quiet and you can't get up whenever you want. And
Gloria Steinem later in life said her one great regret was that she never had a child.
yeah.
reminds me of the Supertramp song.
Oh,
You
yeah?
took the long way home. Who's to blame if you're all alone?
Yeah.
Who's to blame if you took the long way
I
home?
remember that song.
And
song.
yeah, that that's what can happen.
And Desperado.
Yeah, it's another one.
My views changed from 18 to 28, from 28 to 38, 38 to your views, your priorities change. And when you're young and free and you're in your 20s and life is you're vibrant, you're at your peak.
You know why some guys get married? This is Chris Rock talking.
Go ahead.
Okay. You know why some guys just don't want to decide to finally get married? You know why? They don't want to be the old guy in the club. You know? No one wants to be the old guy in the club.
Yeah.
And I found myself in my own life where I was like, I don't belong here. I was in Las Vegas. And I'm like, I'm in my mid-30s. This is not good.
Yeah.
And I just felt really uncomfortable. I felt like I stuck out like a sore thumb. Yeah, that's part of it too.
Age does matter, even
Yes.
even in the Christian world. Age matter. I remember one time, this is 20 years ago. No, I was younger, and I had this Christian rock band, and I needed a female singer. So I said, I'm going to go to some of these churches' youth groups, and I'm going to see what their worship team. Maybe I can find another female singer, because one of the ones we had quit and moved on. And so I started. I won't name the church, but I'm walking in with a couple of my bandmates, and I'm like 39, 40, and I'm walking into the event, into the room where they're singing and they're praising and all contemporary. And this guy stops me at the door and goes, "Hey, how you doing?" I go, "Yeah, fine, I'm doing good." He goes, "You guys here for the group?" I go, "Yeah." And he tells me, "You know, this is for young people, right?" I'm going, "Whoa, man." I'm
Reality check.
I'm like 39, and I look like I'm 29 at the time.
Yeah.
But no, I got stopped at the door.
Right.
You know this is for youth, don't you? And
Yeah.
I'm going, "Yeah, I know."
We are going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to have Bishop Hansen is going to bring out his guitar and bring out his svelte voice and his beautiful voice. And we're going to hear some wonderful music from, I think it's original music, right, Bishop?
That's right.
Original
Amen.
music. We'll do that right after the break here on Rebel Religion in the News. We'll be right back.
Rebel religion in the news.
You know, one of my favorite psalms is Psalm 150. It talks about singing to the Lord and clashing cymbals and banging on drums and playing stringed instruments. And I've been a musician, I mean, literally since I was 5 years old. And when I started singing for the Lord, there was nothing more satisfying. Because I used to be out in clubs and nightclubs singing for myself. But, you know, writing original music that I believe the Lord gave me, and music is such a big part of our worship and praise. Now, worship is also how we live, but, you know, we have the bishop here who also a fellow musician, and he's quite good. I've heard him before.
What's first of all, this is an original song?
This is an original song. This is what broke the ice for me. I had been a non-Christian songwriter for a time when, let's get it up here.
There you go.
All right. A non-Christian songwriter for a time. And then when I became filled with faith, I realized my stuff doesn't serve God, and it's not that good. It's well written, but it's not what I want to sing.
Yeah.
It embarrasses me. It's real selfish. So then I listened to Christian music, and I went, "Ew, I don't want to play that. You know, I can't write that stuff."
Hey, you're saying my story.
So I was going like 30 years without any writing.
Yeah.
And I was complaining with a friend about this. I said, you know, I wish I could write stuff, but the stuff I hear is all, "I love God and God loves me and happy, happy, happy." And I said, that's okay, but that's not how I write. And most of the Bible has dark passages in it and tough stuff, and there are people in there that ought to be sung about, like Ananias and Sapphira.
Is that what we're going to hear?
The seven sons of Sceva, you know. There ought to be some hard passages sung about. Everything is this nice stuff. It's all been carefully clipped. Well, I dared myself, which is always a dangerous thing. I dared myself to go home and write a song that included Ananias and Sapphira.
And so that's the name of it?
Yeah, well, this is, You Talk About Redemption.
Okay.
Well, you've heard the Bible story of the crossing of the Lamb, how the good thief won forgiveness from the dying great I Am. But did you know that the other man who died with broken legs is still too proud to have the law, no matter how he moans and pleads and begs? Well, you talk about redemption when you mean just to go free, and isn't your intention to have integrity? If you claim the high calling, if that his precious blood is bought, you'd best be sure you're not the one. He turns away and says, I knew you not. Ananias and Sapphira were clever members of the way, for they wanted to seem generous, and they were, until that day when St. Peter caught her lying to the Lord in her deceit. Said, the men who buried your husband are about to drag you to him by your feet. Well, you talk about redemption when you mean just to go free. It isn't your intention to have integrity. If you claim your high calling, his precious blood is bought, you best be sure you're not the one. He turns away and says, I knew you not. When the 7 sons of Sceva heard the wonders of the Lord, thought that they'd command the devil by the power of their words. Well, Paul I know, and Jesus Christ, but who in hell are you? Cried Satan as he shredded them and chased them naked down the avenue. Well, you talk about redemption when you mean just to go free. It isn't your intention to have integrity. When you claim the high calling, his precious blood is bought, you best be sure you're not the one. He turns away and says, I knew you not. He was called the Lord's apostle, the most trusted of the 12. And he ate and drank the supper, had his feet washed as well. But for 30 coins in silver, he betrayed him with a kiss. Then he hanged himself and he went to hell. Now don't you go and waste your life like this. There is plenty for redemption. The king wants you to go free, but didn't anybody mention your own Gethsemane? He means for you to face your God and see what's lost and won. Take up your cross and follow him, and say, not my will, but thy will be done. Thy will be done.
Yeah, very great.
That's my Barry McGuire Christian song.
Wow.
Sounded a little Dylan-esque at times.
A little of that, yeah.
Little Dylan is a very good song. Very good.
Very good. It's hard to believe that comes from an Anglican priest.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Hey, you'd be surprised what Anglican priests are up to.
Why don't we? I think we have time for one more. You have one more for us?
I have one more, yeah. This was on a dare. These are my 2 songs on a dare.
Yeah, good.
My wife dared me. She said, you know that song you wrote once? I said, yeah, I don't sing that anymore. And she says, it's a beautiful song. It just needs new words. Why don't you write the entire life of Christ? I went, entire life of one song.
It's a 6 CD set.
Yeah.
How am I going to do that? So But she said, you know, you ought to try. So I tried.
And what?
This-
And it's
this
called the
is
title.
Bethlehem Child.
Okay.
The cry of a newborn that night was heard. The son of a woman is God's own word. In the beginning you were, ever shall be, and our God and man. The angels are singing your glorious birth. The gift of the Father brings peace on earth. All the while a new star, sages come from afar, cross the sands. Oh, you Bethlehem child, so tame and so wild, who thinks such tiny fingers could hold? All our lives on this eve, you receive frankincense, myrrh, and gold. The 8th day your blood was first shed to prove the weight of the law you meant to remove. Yeshua was the name that the angel proclaimed from above. At the temple, 2 doves made your sacrifice, but the old prophet spoke of a greater price. Mary heard that a sword through her heart would reward all her love. Are you Bethlehem, babe, so young or so brave? As a lamb you'll be led to your doom. Aged priest would remark, living ark with the air of a tomb. With a hand and a word, the sick left their bed. Your command life restored, even to the dead. Such surprise at the sight, the uncreated light through your skin. That night at the table you broke the bread. Take, eat, this is my body, you said, and the wine is your blood, washing us with its flood from all sin. Oh, you Bethlehem, son, getting help from no one. You stood there on the cross till you died. Heaven sighed its relief, for its chief had now rescued his bride. The sun gives its light to a new day. Your friends find the tombstone rolled away. It is I, you proclaim, touch my wounds, take my name, fear no more. Oh, you Bethlehem man, doing all that God can to love and forgive, heal and save. God and man for eternity, free us from death and the grave.
That's fantastic.
I think
Thank you so
I think
much,
your wife
Bishop.
was right. That was the song to redo.
We
Yeah,
definitely did.
yeah, absolutely.
Somehow I found room in that for the whole life of Christ. So.
Yeah, that was great. Wonderful. I like that's my favorite so far.
And the timing couldn't be better.
Wow.
We're out of time.
God is good.
Bishop Peter Hansen, thank you so much. Service time, 10 o'clock Sunday morning over on Salem Street in downtown Chico. Take good care, everybody, and so long.
Rebel